Hello and welcome to Give Me the Remote, episode 11, the podcast that reviews things you can watch on your TV. My name is John, I'm joined by Sheridan.
Hi folks.
And after a gap in service, we have returned. We are podcasting, recording live from beautiful Paris, a picture of prosperity, despite what right-wing media might have you believe.
It is very lovely. We're not sure what date it is, but...
We know. It is the 9th of August, Thursday the 9th of August.
Who knows what it is where you are.
Now, Sheridan was slack and stopped caring about you people, but I have tracked her down in Paris and forced her to the recording microphone.
We had some time zone issues.
And bottles of Prosecco issues.
Not now, though.
No. We've just eaten the strangest barbecue in the world. Okay, so Sheridan, what do we got?
Disaster Artist. Now, so this movie is based on a book that's based on the making of a movie. So it's based on the movie that has been commonly called the worst movie ever made, which is The Room. And if you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend giving it a crack.
But it's something you want to watch at a midnight screening where people do all the actions.
I reckon things. You need... I mean, I've never been to one of those midnight screenings, which have turned into like a cult event around the world.
If you're sick of Rocky Horror Picture Show, the next one for you is The Room.
Yeah, but I think actually you kind of probably need to watch it yourself before going to one. Although actually, I don't know, but I've never been to one, but I have watched the movie. I'd probably recommend having a few drinks and not taking it too seriously. But it is... I mean, it's out there.
Now, this is, from my point of view, another James Franco vehicle which is about making movies and is about making James Franco look good.
Oh, totally. I mean, we can address the elephant of the room, which is that, I mean, my view is I think James Franco's on the precipice of having a Me Too moment. It's already started against him.
But he does wear the right ribbons and the right colours at the right events, and he claims to be a feminist.
A lot of trouble for wearing those ribbons.
Yeah.
Anyway, but the whole this movie is based on a book that was written by Greg Sestero, who starred in The Room.
Who's played by James Franco's brother in this.
I think two of James Franco's brothers are actually in this film.
This is just James Franco ego service. This is my biggest problem with it.
Yeah, totally. And Seth Rogen...
who's always in James Franco's things.
It definitely feels like a little mates club that's happening.
As in their last 3 movies together.
Yeah. So The Room was a film that was made by a guy called Tommy Wiseau, who is, by any characterisation, just a crazy, aloof, out there, mysterious character.
He does have a lot of money,
and no one knows where this money came from. So he spent apparently
$6 million making The Room.
$6 million making The Room,
and that was $6 million in 1990 money as well. So,
so he's it's a really interesting story. And so the thing is, John hasn't seen The Room and he hasn't read The Disaster Artist, the book, and I've done both of those things.
So I've watched it as you, dear listener, might watch it. Having said that, it is a beautiful buddy flick. Yeah,
it is. Their friendship between them, and that is something that comes out of the book. I have to say, I think this film does leave a lot of unanswered questions.
There are many unanswered questions.
One is, I mean, where does Tommy Wiseau's money come from, and how does he do this? But I don't think anyone's getting to the bottom of that. But probably more importantly...
The FBI's probably got some ideas, but yeah.
Probably more importantly is, why is Greg friends with Tommy? It makes no sense, their relationship. Tommy's this sort of crazy, possibly Romanian, some sort of Eastern European older guy, and Greg's this young, up-and-coming actor. And it made no sense to me in the book because it's written from Greg's perspective. And I don't think you want to piss Tommy off because...
Apparently they are still friends. Apparently they talk on the phone every day.
It just makes no sense to me why they're friends, though.
I can see that from Greg's point of view, in the context of the buddy film as a film, he's very bored in his life in Middle America, and Tommy is offering something more interesting and more exciting. And more to the point, every time Tommy's wherewithal is called into question, he delivers. He has the great car. He has the flat in Los Angeles. He's got the money to put on the barrel head to get the equipment to make the film. Every time you're like, this guy's just a nut job who's leading me down the garden path, Tommy actually delivers the goods.
Yeah. And I guess Greg hasn't really made any success as an actor, so I can maybe understand why they are friends.
Well, he did get that Malcolm in the Middle role, apparently. But
it was like one episode or something. But yeah, it does leave.
But marketing the room is now a full-time job because they have to organise those midnight screenings, which generates the revenue for them. And,
he'd be making so much money going to Comic-Cons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Cestro. But
Now, they won a Golden Globe, or was it an Oscar for this? It was one of the big awards that they actually got Tommy up on the stage and he tried to steal a microphone.
It was a Golden
year.
Globe, yeah. But yeah, you're right. I mean, even then, that was the James Franco show.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it was actually a really good book. And because Greg comes from a movie background, if that book was written, it was basically a movie script just waiting to happen. You had to do very little with it. I'm sure it was
very deliberately written that way too.
Yeah, but, I mean, James Franco had to do very little to make this a good movie.
That's James Franco's favourite sort of project, isn't it?
And I just don't think he really did Tommy Wiseau much justice, because I could never really get away from the fact that I was watching James Franco.
And I say this as someone who's not a huge James Franco fan, as you might have gathered from the last 6 minutes of me talking about it. I did actually not realise that was James Franco until halfway through. I knew it was a James Franco vehicle. I was actually taken in by his portrayal of Tommy Wiseau. I might even go so far as to say this is the only single time I've seen James Franco actually play another character and not himself.
Okay, well, see, maybe it's because I knew it was James Franco.
Yeah, right. I thought he was quite good at it. I thought his timing was good. I mean, they had to show us at the end of it the footage from the original The Room compared to their recreation of it, just to show us how faithful they'd been to it. And, it held up.
Does it make you want to watch The Room?
I feel like I already have.
Oh, no, you haven't. And that's actually the disappointing thing, is that I feel as though people that watch this might not watch The Room. And I just don't think that you can watch this movie and fully understand the craziness that is The Room. And I think, don't watch this movie, go out and watch The Room. Like, that's what I would recommend to people.
Yeah, wow. Okay, I mean, I would say I wanted to hate this film because the words James Franco just set my teeth on edge.
There's some awesome cameos in this movie, though, that make it heaps of fun.
There are awesome cameos as a story about two unlikely friends that is moderately grounded in fact, who do pull an unlikely success out of a heroic set of failures. I think, judged on its own merits as a story, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I know I've just spoken a little rubbish about it, but it is actually a pretty good movie.
Yeah, now the other thing I would say is I hate films about making films. I hate plays that are about making plays. I know it was very innovative when Shakespeare did it 400 years ago, but it's been overdone by theatre people who have no other experience except the theatre, and they're just telling stories for other theatre people. I have a big problem with that. But I will, leaving that aside, I'll come back to buddy flick, good, unlikely friends, good. There's an arc, there's character development. There's conflict. When Tommy feels he's being left behind, he can be a real jerk. So it does have a lot of things going for it.
Yeah, it does. What would you give it?
No more than 3.5.
I'm going to go 3 stars.
Yeah, if it didn't have anything to do with James Franco, it might have scored a bit higher.
I agree.
But, yeah.
And I'm just sick of seeing James Franco and Seth Rogen together. It's just bleh.
I still have a lot of time for Seth Rogen. I think he has a very amiable screen persona, and I think he is used well in this. But he basically just plays himself.
Exactly.
And, he's cool. I'd like to go to a party with Seth Rogen.
Yeah.
I could live without James Franco, although he'd probably be fun too.
Yeah, maybe. If you wanted to be.
All right. Okay, what next?
Mother with an exclamation mark.
Javier Bardem and Jennifer Lawrence.
It is Darren Aronofsky.
Who's the director?
Directed it.
Yeah. Now this is a real return to high art cinema, isn't it?
I think I need to probably start by stating that I absolutely hated this movie.
You're supposed to, though.
What do you mean?
It's a total exploration of a woman's nightmare.
No, I didn't hate it because I was uncomfortable. I hated it because I thought it was crap.
Right. Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
I went into it with pretty high expectations because I love Aronofsky.
Mm-hmm.
Requiem for a Dream, I think, is...
Oh, that movie gave me...
I love that movie. It's a great movie.
I respect the emotional resonance that drew out of me, but it was so unpleasant to watch.
The Wrestler is also another great movie.
Mind you, this is also very unpleasant to watch, so there's
extremely
some
unpleasant. But not in a way that made me want to keep watching it.
But you finished it.
I finished it because I watched it on a plane and I had nowhere else to go. I was so close so many times to turning this movie off. Mm-hmm. And I think that says something, because when you're watching a movie on a plane, mm-hmm. you literally have nothing else you can do. You're sort of
slumped and belted in and just sat staring, drooling at the screen in front of you.
You don't have any choice.
Well, you could watch Avengers.
Yeah, but anyway, I think if you're already bored, mm-hmm. you already don't want to be there. Mm-hmm. The movie provides you with something, and if you want to turn it off, then you're in trouble.
So, having got that out of the way, let's unpack the movie a little bit. There is an enormous amount of borderline pornography involving Jennifer Lawrence in this.
I actually probably found the violence a bit more disturbing.
The borderline Jennifer Lawrence pornography wasn't particularly disturbing, but at the same time it was like, am I watching porn or am I watching a movie? Because, I don't normally mix those two that often anymore.
So the story, for what it is Jennifer Lawrence plays the wife of a very well-known poet who suffers from writer's block.
Yeah, no one in this movie has a name. There's mother, there is man, him. There's mother, there is him, there is man, there is woman.
Oldest son.
Yeah. And that's a clue that we're talking about archetypes in a way.
Oh, there's definitely, maybe...
It's all symbolism. The movie is a nightmare.
Yeah.
And that's obvious. It takes you about 5 minutes in to go, this is some sort of dreamscape. And then it just gets freakier and freakier.
It does. It gets really freaky.
And it has not one but two of the worst parties in the world.
It does. I thought Jennifer Lawrence and Javier Bardem were good in it. I thought Ed Harris and Michelle Pfeiffer, who we haven't seen for quite a while, I don't think, in anything.
This was a great role for Michelle Pfeiffer to play, and God, she was so vile.
She is vile.
She's been playing the wicked stepmother in a few things for a while, because she was in Stardust as the evil queen as well. And that was, over 10 years ago. So there's a great cast doing great things.
So both of Ed Harris and Michelle Pfeiffer really make you feel uncomfortable. So there's some good acting going on there.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
You don't want to watch them because they make you so awkward and uncomfortable.
But, everyone is an asshole. Javier Bardem is just the most ego-driven, absent husband imaginable. And but it's a woman's nightmare. That's what it's meant to be. I did love the line late in the movie where she shouts at him, "You never loved me, you just loved how much I love you."
Yeah.
And there's so many relationships like that out there.
I just found it very dull.
Really? Because in the second half, there's action all the time,
but it's
constantly
come
unpleasant.
On, just kill her.
Yeah.
just let her die, so I can end this nightmare.
Yeah. Like I said, it's high art. This isn't a plot-driven, relatable movie. This is a deep dive into the essence of nightmare. What is the worst thing that can happen to a woman? What's the next worst thing that can happen to a woman? It's a constant, over and over, what is the absolute worst thing that can happen to a woman, pretty much. In a way, it's female-driven.
Oh, I know, I wanted to like it, and maybe it was actually an amazing movie because it actually did the thing that it was trying to do, which was make itself a complete nightmare that I didn't want to be a part of.
Right. Yeah. So if you're looking for high-concept artistic cinema, then this is a rare offering, I would say. But if you're looking for just a story you can get into and derive some enjoyment from, this is not it.
I know. I mean, I wanted to like it because it is doing something that's so different and so unusual. But I just didn't like it at all. I just found it really, really boring.
I wouldn't say I found it boring, but I would say I was only watching it because I knew I had to talk about it in this podcast, and if I'd been watching it in most other contexts.
I remember halfway through the movie thinking, oh my God, I'm going to make John watch this movie. Is that fair? I might turn it off to save us both from this hell. But I thought I can't fit another movie in before I land in Abu Dhabi, so I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, wow, that's the worst possible justification. So basically we're talking about a 0-star movie for both of us.
Well, I'm going to give it 1 star. And I'm only going to do that because...
The actors are so good?
Well, I think it was trying to... There is an element of it that is interesting because it is so complex in a lot of ways and doing something so different from what you see in current movies. I don't know why I'm trying to justify this 1 star.
It's a real tough one because on the one level it's like I would like to see more movies with the artistic ambition that this one has.
Totally, I totally agree.
But at the same time, if all you're going to do with your artistic ambition is drag the characters and the viewers through hell,
I know.
Then what's the point?
Well, I mean, not all art should be comfortable, but I don't know.
It shouldn't be comfortable, but it should maybe have something that...
I mean, to be fair, it did get a lot of good reviews. It was nominated for a Golden Lion.
Yeah.
Other people didn't hate it as much as me.
Yeah, but that Venice audience, they just want something different, and they reward art for art's sake.
I know. Maybe I should have watched it while I was in Paris. I might have got it more.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's a really tough one. In as we keep circling back to, the concept is interesting. The execution just leaves nothing for anyone. I would also say that Jennifer Lawrence's character is so washed out and responsive that she doesn't give you much to work with either.
I know, but
I'm not
that's
blaming
part
her
of
acting.
her nightmare.
And that is part of the nightmare, is that you can never say what you want to say. You can never scream loud enough for anyone to hear you.
Yeah.
When you shout for help, no one hears you, and that is a dreamscape nightmare. And they're depicting that at the same time. I can get those nightmares on my own. I don't need Aronofsky to make a movie to drag me through that.
Yeah. Anyway, what are you giving it? Because I've given it 1.
I've kind of got 2 reviews for it as an art house concept. It's right up there as 4 stars with the actors and the art of it. But as a movie to be enjoyed, I'll go with you with 1 star. That there's a little bit to redeem it, but boy, you got to be bored of life before you want to do this again.
Yeah. So if you're on a plane, folks, pick something else.
All right. So what's next?
Good Girls.
Or Breaking Bad for chicks.
Maybe. So what is this on? Is it on Netflix?
It was on Netflix, yeah.
So it's a story about 3 friends, 2 of whom are sisters, and all of them are struggling in different ways, but 2 very obviously financially.
All 3 are struggling financially.
I know, but you don't know that immediately. But yeah, all struggling in very different ways, and to get themselves out of their immediate situation, they decide to rob a grocery store. And then what happens is their descent into the criminal underworld. So it's got Christina Hendricks from Mad Men, and Rita, who's from Parks and Recreation, which I've heard very good things about, but I have not watched. And also Mae Whitman, who I think I've probably seen in some pretty C-grade teen kind of movies and stuff, but otherwise isn't really a big star. But all really, really good actors. I just sort of I feel like they're not really getting their full potential in this
I don't
show.
think the script was quite as well developed as it should have been.
Yeah.
I mean, and Breaking Bad is the obvious comparison because it is a tale of suburbia descending into criminality.
Yeah.
And the script of Breaking Bad never had moments where you're like, that's an obvious plot hole, why the hell would
Yeah,
that
there was quite
happen?
a few of those.
Or where did that person actually come from, or how did that person know that person's house is there?
The other one that's maybe a little bit like is Weeds. But
Also better written.
yeah, and I think actually one of the problems with this show is it is sort of constantly straddling whether it's trying to be a comedy or not. I was sort of a bit unsure about whether it's...
There weren't a lot of laughs.
No, but then there's there are some sort of silly moments. That,
Yeah. I mean,
like
there
when
is
they're doing the robberies, there's some pretty kind of funny things.
There's a lot of lightness to it, and I've been a little down on it, I guess, if for the listeners, and I would actually recommend watching it.
Yeah, I
think
quite
it's
enjoyed
totally
it.
worth putting on. It's very enjoyable. It's slightly annoying in that the potential was there to actually
Be really good.
yeah, almost as good as Breaking Bad, and it doesn't quite get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just loved Christina Hendricks in Mad Men. I think she's a really good actor.
I find her quite tough to watch, and I think that's because she's actually such a good actor that she can move. She's not always likable.
Yeah. She's able to...
Just like a real human being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's obviously like extremely attractive, but she, as an actor, is actually able to show vulnerability in a really believable way.
Yeah.
I mean, which she did just amazingly in Mad Men. I mean, she was this quite, big sex symbol, but you actually felt empathy for her.
Yeah, and I've got to say, I kind of like, we sort of mentioned in passing that Jennifer Lawrence is almost pornographic in Mother ! Whereas in this, Christina Hendricks, despite being literally a pin-up for millions of men around the world, is pretty much not sexualised in this at all.
You actually totally believe she's a housewife.
Yeah, but they don't put her in a skimpy negligee as far as I can recall.
No.
They don't put her in a bathing suit. She's just a woman in the world doing things, which actually is quite hard to do given the physical proportions of Miss Hendricks.
One of the things that I did find a little odd about this with the characters is... So, Christina Hendricks plays Belle and Mae Whitman's Annie, and they're both sisters. And then there's their friend Ruby, who's black,
African American.
But I mean, of course, white people can be friends with black people, but
it did seem like a pairing by the numbers rather than an organic one.
Something that didn't really seem very...
Well, particularly because she's from a very different socioeconomic circumstance. It could be that kids are in school together, though. They'd all be about the right age.
But there was no explanation as to how they became friends. No. I mean, I can see how Annie and Ruby were friends because they were both a bit more... I don't know, come from a lower socioeconomic background, but Christina Hendricks' character is this kind of SUV driving soccer mum.
Whose husband owns the biggest car dealership in town, yeah.
And I just really didn't make any sense to me why they're such a tight group of friends.
I think kids can make friends of strange groupings.
I mean, it wasn't explained.
But yeah, it wasn't explained. And... yeah, I mean, there were big problems in the script as well. I mean, I'm not an expert in the American underworld, but there were just a whole bunch of things that didn't particularly make sense. And, well, yeah, either big callbacks to Weeds or big callbacks to Breaking Bad without the script backing it up.
Yeah.
And they never quite resolved. There was a little bit of sexual tension between Belle and the gangster boss that just went nowhere.
Yes. Yeah.
But having crapped all over it, like I said, it's fun to watch. It's new on Netflix.
And it's got that thing of, ooh, what happens next? Ooh, how will they get out of this?
The characters are likeable enough and interesting enough that you do actually care what happens. And one thing they do well is that the characters are flawed enough that they can organically get themselves into trouble. You can believe the ways they get themselves into trouble, even if you don't believe the ways they get themselves out of trouble. I think it also throws back to the enormous desperation of the American middle class, and that's got to be a huge wellspring of viewership, if not creative stories.
Yeah.
How many stars?
I'm going to go 3.
3 stars. Yeah, I'm very indecisive tonight. 3.5 from me. I mean, I could go a little higher on sheer enjoyability, but the plot holes. I really wish they'd spend another 6 months in script development on this. I think they could have there's no hole in this that couldn't have been closed up if they hadn't put the work into it. Yeah. And it's also, why would you bother hiring cameramen and going to all that trouble when you just need to leave the nerds on the word processors banging away on the typewriters a few weeks longer?
Yeah, the characters needed a bit more development for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, but in general, we're saying this one's well worth watching.
Yeah. Okay, what's next?
The Vietnam War,
which is on Netflix.
Yes.
It's pretty long.
It's about 22 hours, I think. It was while you were away. I embarked on the great deep dive into the blackness, and this is for Ronnie, one of our more treasured long-term listeners.
I'm feeling a bit guilty because I've been unable to actually watch more than the first 2 or 3 episodes, but that's because I left.
They are 2 hours long each.
Yeah, I think this is probably well, I can't really offer too much, but my one criticism is going to be that it's perhaps somewhat long.
I mean, there was a documentary in the 80s called The 10,000 Day War, just describing the immense length of the conflict. So this is Ken Burns, who was perhaps most famous for his documentary The Civil War, and the Ken Burns effect, which you'll see on your photo editing software where it makes the picture move, is in fact named after what Ken Burns does, where he takes his historic photos and makes them move on the screen as documentaries.
Oh.
So there's a random fun fact for everyone.
Yeah, that is. I mean, this is a real deep dive.
Oh, unbelievably deep.
Like, they go right back into the whole French colonisation of Vietnam and how that led to the Vietnam War. It's very, very in-depth.
Look, I've been to Vietnam. I have studied the Vietnam War at an undergraduate level.
You're a war nerd.
I am a natural war nerd with a great history, great love of history, not a great history, great love of history. And there was still stuff in this that was dropping my jaw. At its best, it's just pulling together interviews like John McCain being interviewed by a European journalist as a prisoner of war. The interview he had his shoulders broken for because he didn't say the things his captors wanted him to say. John F. Kennedy, days before he was assassinated, with his audio diary. There are things that if you've got an interest at all in history, they are pulling all these primary sources, and this is probably where it's best, is the primary sources, into here in ways you probably haven't heard or seen before. And it's really quite extraordinary in that way, but this is the bleakest, darkest, longest trudge I have ever undertaken in the world of on-screen entertainment.
From the bit that I saw, it did seem to be really genuinely trying to get everyone's perspective.
Oh, it sets a little honey trap at the start. It says, "Oh, America got into the Vietnam War because of well-intended men." It puts that out there for the Vietnam hawks who are still going, and then it proves that was not the case.
Well, that's what I had seen. The parts I'd seen, it seemed to be really,
yeah,
trying to give all those perspectives, though.
One thing I would say is that Burns' magnum opus of the Civil War at least had a relatively happy ending. In that the US Civil War was a ghastly, gruesome conflict, but at least the slavers lost.
Yeah.
Now you can question the motives of the North. Yes, was it really worth it? I would say in that it put an end to the institution of slavery in the Western Hemisphere. Maybe, probably. The alternative of not fighting the war was worse, which was why that one happened. Anyway, this one, there is no happy ending. They should never have fought the war. They fought the war. They murdered millions of people. They killed an enormous number. What was it, 62,000? A huge number of American soldiers died. A huger number were crippled for life or permanently scarred. But one thing this documentary is quite guilty of is it mostly focuses on the cost to the Americans, which was huge. But is utterly dwarfed by the cost of the deaths they inflicted.
Yeah.
And the other thing that made me personally super angry, and this is well done by Ken Burns to have this effect on me, is he keeps picking these case studies. Now, every time they start a case study, the particular one is Mogi, and they run you through his childhood and the stuff he liked, and he had little maps where he tried to draw communist activity around the world from what he read in his newspapers. And when I was a kid, that was me. And if there had been a war on to fight communists when I was 18, I would have joined and I would have gone. And funny bit of personal history, when I was 19, I was actually provisionally accepted to the army, so I'm not saying there's some chicken hawk who never could have gone. I totally would have gone if it had been there, but the fate was there was no war to fight. But it would have been the dumbest thing I could have done, because there was no good reason to be there. And they do beautifully unpick that throughout this, and I guess that's good. But the saddest thing is everything that you can learn from watching this, you then say, well, what the hell happened with the Gulf War? Why did they do it again?
I sort of feel as though this documentary, though, is so complex that really the only people that it's going to appeal to are people that are interested in war, and they're going to have a view about that stuff anyway, because it's quite difficult to sort of follow.
I will say that for a long time I did subscribe to the lie, and it was a very cleverly put out lie by people who are trying to appeal to people like me, that the Vietnam War was still worth it as a holding action to stop communism. And it wasn't. It just, what's the worst thing that happens with communists? To hold people have their debts forgiven. Then they, grow their rice badly for a few years and say this is a bad idea, we better let farmers have their land back. But at least with their grandfather's gambling debts are forgiven, so that there's some progress there. And they do a good job of showing how Ho Chi Minh tried over and over and again to get the Americans involved with what he was trying to do for Vietnamese independence.
I really liked that aspect of it, actually, the background story they give to Ho Chi Minh, who, as a person, I didn't actually know very much about.
Yeah, I don't think he was a super nice human being, but people who achieve great things very rarely are, and to have wrested Vietnamese independence from the French and American empires required a very driven figure. At enormous cost to his own people.
Yeah.
Again and again, you've got to come back to the cost to the Vietnamese. Every half victory they fought where they killed a few hundred Americans, there were thousands of Vietnamese dead involved.
All right, so what would you rate it?
As a piece of entertainment, no stars. As something,
no stars.
But as something, I couldn't turn away. I really could not turn away. I ended up feeling like I had to bear witness to it all.
I wanted to watch more of it.
Yeah.
It's just that I left the country.
Yeah. Which is an extreme way to get out of watching it. Look, as just a thing that is on Netflix that more people should watch. People should watch, and then they don't just look at it and say this is something that our politicians did years ago. Because remember, this was the good old days when men were men and our politicians were decent, and they were still murdering bastards.
Say the good old days when men were men.
Yeah, but people still pretend. They still spin the narrative. Oh, things were better back then. And boy, if they were better back then. So I don't know. Don't trust your politicians. I will say the one thing to really think about watching this is that the only winners out of this were the weapons companies. This was just after Eisenhower gave his farewell speech and said, "Watch out for the weapons companies. They're coming for us all."
All right. So what's your rating?
5 stars.
5 stars. I don't really feel as though I can rate it.
Okay, so 5 stars stands
because I haven't watched it all. Okay. From what I saw, I was going towards the 4-star range, just because for me, maybe it was a little bit too much of a deep dive. I'm not really super into war that much, but it was very well made. Actually tried to distill some really, really complex issues in an intellectual way, rather than glossing over them and just feeding them to you like candy. So yeah, I'm going towards 4 stars, but I might just have a little Asterisk
on
with
that
a
one.
fine print to be determined.
I would also say, years ago, I read a book that really opened my eyes up, and it's called Novel Without a Name, and I can't pronounce the author's name, so just look up Novel Without a Name. She was a North Vietnamese soldier in the war, and commanded quite a number of troops, and the book is about, it's not fully autobiographical, but about being a North Vietnamese company commander fighting, and the thing is, throughout the whole book, the Americans aren't there. The enemy are the South Vietnamese. Because almost all the fighting in the war didn't involve the Americans at all, which is kind of a failing, again, of this documentary, but I'm not going to drop it a star for it, in that it's about the American experience with a very limited input of the Vietnamese.
All right. Well, we can review that one when you do a book review podcast.
Boy. Seems like that's going to happen. Okay, well, coming to you direct from Paris, and we'll try and knock another one out next week.
Well, I don't know how we're going to watch any movies because they're all in French.
Yeah, but we've still got all the other stuff we watched on the planes.
That's it. I'm done.
Okay, well, I watched a lot of movies. I
slept. I was smart.
I've got heaps. All right, I'll just do one on my own in a few days' time, folks.
Thanks for listening.
Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for making it through. And, of course, like and subscribe and follow us. And if you, like Veronica, have anything you think we should be watching and reviewing, do let us know via email to gmtrpodcast@gmail.com or via the social media channels. All right, good night.
Night.